Who am I? Why am I here? Good question. Let's figure this out together. So, whether this is the first video you're watching of mine or not, my name is Shannon Rushing. That's where Shrush comes from, by the way, in case you didn't know. I have just taken the leap to finally have my own business. I'm just getting started out. This is kind of the first step I've done here, is to create a YouTube channel. I wanted everything to be done before I did that. Like, I wanted everything to be done that I wanted all together, ready before I started anything. I ended up running out of time. So, and then I had a lot of Halloween videos that I wanted to do and get out. I especially had the one from last year, from my mural last year. So I knew I wanted to get that out before Halloween because I didn't want to sit another year with it. So I ended up, having the one video that I had, the first video on this channel, which was the yard game scoreboard. I had that filmed back in July of this year because that's when I made it. I made it for a specific party I went to in July. And I was kind of working on it slowly throughout the months after that. And I had most of it kind of done. And then, I was like, well, and I kept putting off, like, I'm going to start my YouTube next week. No, I'm going to start it next week and next week because I planned on having everything done. None of that ever happened. And, I've gone kind of all different directions since then. Anyway, then with the Halloween stuff coming out, I decided, well, I have to do it now because the Halloween stuff's coming out. So I also, it's a yard game scoreboard. It's more of an outdoor thing. People aren't going to want that in the middle of winter. So I, had to do it before all the Halloween stuff. So I got that video out. And if you haven't seen it already, first of all, you should. But be warned, it's a little rough around the edges. Because, like I said, I was working on it for a long time. And I felt like I was doing a good job on it. And then all of a sudden I was like, I gotta get this out. So I rushed the rest of it. And then I kept adding things. Well, I want it to look like this and I want it to look like that. So then, not giving myself enough time to actually implement those things. So that's why it looks kind of rough. If you've seen it or if you're going to see it, I warn you, it's a little rough. It's my first video. And for a first video, I think it's not bad. I'm slowly getting better every video I make. I wanted to have more videos available before I even started so that I could take more time to kind of refine them and put little finishing details on them better before sending them out. But that didn't happen. Not yet. It's gonna happen. I promise. Right now, all I have is this YouTube channel, which we're gonna talk about the direction it's going to go in a minute. And I'm gonna give you a little background about myself. So as I said, as I've been sneak peeking this video, in my other videos, because that's what I do at the end of every video, is I put a sneak peek. This is my proper intro to who I am and what Shrush Design is as a business and as a YouTube channel. For those of you who are here with me in the very beginning, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being supportive in whatever way that is. As we're going to talk about, I am planning on much more for this channel, for my business, all kinds of things. I'm just getting started now. I have all this stuff kind of goes together, and again, I wanted it all done before I started anything, and it's not done. So it's getting there with certain things though, and hopefully by the beginning of the year, next year, 2023, everything will be done and ready, and I will be officially open. And that's with both my brands, both Shrush Design and Poised Pencraft. So on this channel, you're going to mainly see tutorials on methods and materials and some art kind of stuff, which for me is lettering, well, mainly, and some kind of graphic design stuff, design in general, just learning what looks better. So if you are, this channel is good for the DIYer who wants to either design things for their own wedding or someone else's wedding in your family or friends. or someone who wants to learn how to do this professionally. I'm not saying that these are the only people that can watch this channel. Whoever you are, welcome. Maybe it's entertaining for you in some way. Even if that's making fun of me, that's okay. That's okay. It's okay. Either way, thank you for being here. It helps. I appreciate it. Like, this channel is very small at this point. I hope it grows bigger. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. It's up to you guys. The end of this year, the remaining part of this year is a little chaotic. I started out as the Halloween and Christmas time of the year, so it's kind of taking up all my weekly videos. After, starting next year, I'm going to have more, let's just say, more helpful videos. They're more like dedicated to a topic. They're more, rather than just watching me do something. Like I did my mural. I had my Halloween mural from last year. I did my mural this year. I ended up having 2 videos about it. And I was doing other projects for Halloween. You're just kind of watching me, and I'm kind of peppering in little tips along the way. I want to do more of a dedicated tutorial to actually help, you make your own things. That's not going to be able to happen much until the beginning of next year. So, a little bit of patience. I promise it'll pay off. But that's, in case you're watching this in the future, that's the beginning of 2023 is when that's going to start. After the holidays are over, we'll have more freedom to do different topics. I'm not going to be doing big projects like the mural and stuff like that all the time. Those will be, again, peppered in every once in a while, maybe like once a month or less. Again, I know this channel right now doesn't really have a lot of direction, and it's starting to get kind of popular during Halloween because people were into that, but maybe they're not anymore. I don't know. Right now I'm just kind of chugging along through the holidays, and in the new year, plan on everything getting better. By then, I promise it will get better next year. So that's the channel. I am this close also to getting my Etsy shops open. And I have 3. One of them is going to be in conjunction with Poised Pen Craft. So it's going to be Poised Pen Craft shop and Poised Pen Craft YouTube channel and social media. So that'll probably come out around the same time. That'll be more like worksheets, lettering worksheets, downloads and things like that. And maybe even Procreate brushes, that you can use, and even dedicated tutorials that I could have to make certain things. I would probably do through Poised Pen Craft. The other 2 are under Shush Design. One of them is digital shop, where it's more ready to download stuff. Some of it may be customized where you're not going to get it right away, but I will work on it and then bring it back to you. And then I'm going to have a separate shop that's more physical items, like some signage. I'm not looking, at least at this point, I'm not looking to be shipping like large signs, so I'm not going to do like big old welcome signs and seating charts and stuff like that through Etsy. That's things I'm going to do locally. At least not the physical signs. I could do like I'll design your sign for you, and I'll give you the digital file, and you can do whatever you want with it, whether you want to paint it on there, whether you want to use your Cricut and cut it out, or your silhouette, or whatever. That's something I can do, but not, I don't want to ship a whole sign. Makes me nervous. I'm just not at that level, okay? Maybe someday. But also, other physical things I want to do is like invitations, mailing envelopes for weddings. So I'm getting all that ready. It's almost there. My goal was to have that open by the end of November as well, so I'm still on track for that. Talk a little bit about, in general, the business. This is more for local people, again. We've talked about the Etsy, and that's kind of like anyone can kind of order from that once it gets started. But locally, in southeastern Wisconsin area, what I plan on doing, this part isn't fully open. It's loosely open now. I don't no one's acquired anything, that's fine. I'm not asking anyone to do that now. But if someone were to, I might be able to accommodate, is what I'm saying. Anyway, I kind of mentioned, but I want to do, work with, there's 3 different categories, okay? There's weddings and events, there's business, and there's home and personal. And you'll kind of find this on my website. I'm still getting that all worked out and ready to go. I even have a warning on my website. Just give me some time. I'm almost done. Okay, just let me get everything all set up and we'll get it done. A lot of what I don't have done is kind of having materials ready for, like, if someone were to inquire, oh, I do invitations. Here's an example, and here's, all the packages you can get. I don't have all that ready yet. It is getting there. I just don't have visual way to show people this is what I do. I don't have that ready, but I do it. So that, I plan on all of that being ready by early next year. Hopefully, by the new year is my goal. We'll see how that goes. I'm slowly working on it. Well, about 14 years ago now, 14, actually more than that, 14 plus, I started getting the direction to go this way, finally, because I had actually went to college for something else, and that ended up not working out for many reasons. I'm not going to go into that right now. I was sort of left because I wanted to do this one thing all my life, and didn't happen. And I, for a while, was kind of stuck, I don't know what I want to do. Until finally, I got, the feeling that I would like planning, weddings and events. I would like to do that. I am good at planning things. I'm organized. Wasn't super serious about it at that point. But I finally kind of had direction because, in the midst of this, I'm working and I'm trying to work myself out of the financial and otherwise hole that I dug myself into in my early 20s. It was always on the back burner. That's what I want to do. Someday I'll do that. I promise to myself, someday. Well then, a few years later, it was 4 years later, I went to a wedding of a friend of the family, and it's going to sound judgy of me, and I am a little judgy. I promise I'm not mean judgy. I'm just constantly learning and observing from other people. That's what I do. Anyway, went to this wedding, and there were a lot of, not major things that went wrong, but they all kind of added up, minor things. And, at first I was kind of well, the bride and groom probably did this all themselves, or they had some family friend helping them or whatever. So they're not going to know exactly what they're supposed to do. They're not experts at this, whatever. Well, then I find out that they actually hired a planner. And I think it was someone they actually hired, it was the actual professional person. I don't know that for sure. Might have been someone who was a family member or family friend who was oh, I want to plan events, so I'm just going to practice on yours, Might have been that too. And that's how a lot of people get started. There's nothing wrong with that, including me, by the way. But I was at this wedding and there was all these things kind of going wrong, and I found out that supposedly they had hired a planner. So I'm I could do so much better at this. I know I can. Might be a little arrogant of me, I don't know. But I just knew that I could have done such a better job at this wedding. Not that I was being jealous or anything like that. I didn't ever offer or anything to these people weren't that close to me anyway, so it wasn't nothing like that. I'm just saying, in general, I could have done a better job if this was, put in my lap, whatever. Chazzy. There he is. There's his appearance for this video. Hopefully it's the only one. So anyway, that's when I sort of got more serious about it and was like, you know what? I think I want to do this. I think I could do this. I want to do it. So that's when I found a meeting and event management program it was through Madison Area Technical College, which they have shortened to Madison College. Not to be confused with Milwaukee Area Technical College, which oddly enough I was closer to because I live in the Milwaukee area rather than the Madison area. But the program that I was taking was offered online. There were things I had to drive into Madison for. There were things I didn't have to, but I did anyway. Wasn't a big deal to me. I don't mind driving to Madison. I went to UW-Madison for my first round of school, and I lived there for a while, so I understand. I knew the area, and I knew how to get there, and it wasn't a big deal for me to drive out there. I liked having the time to myself in my car driving to Madison, let me tell you. But I didn't have to do it that often for school, mainly for a lot of my volunteer opportunities that we're going to talk about. And I did end up taking one class where I had to go in every week, but wasn't one of the core classes of the curriculum for my program. It was an option for an elective that I had to take. And I ended up taking that one even though it was in person, but I had to drive in and do it. But anyway, this program was, because it was mostly online, which was great because I was working at the time, and I was actually working 2 jobs at the time when I started. And one of my jobs I was working 3rd shift, so being able to choose when I would wake up and like work on stuff and when I wasn't working helped a lot because I didn't get much sleep back then. So having it be online where I didn't have to actually go in was a real asset to me. And I am more self-motivated, which is why I work for myself, one of the reasons. So now, I thrive in the online environment. A lot of people don't. I do. So, it was a good choice for me. And Milwaukee didn't actually have anything similar to that. So Madison it was. And the program is geared more towards meetings and conferences and corporate kind of things rather than what I wanted to do, which was weddings and special events and, more personalized things was more interesting to me than doing corporate things. That's when I started getting serious about it. I started, it's probably best that I go back to school. Like I said, the program is more geared towards meetings and conferences and expositions and things like that. But a lot of it is transferable to doing weddings and things like that. So, and even if it wasn't, it was still good information to know. But we're going to go through kind of what I went through college-wise, what kind of branched off of that. Like I did a lot of volunteer work. I attended a lot of events. I joined 2 professional organizations that are kind of related in the industry. But I was getting a lot of experience in that world through school because some of the classes I had to take, I had to do volunteer work, or I had to attend things, or I could get extra credit for doing things. Not that I really needed it because most of those classes I didn't have any problem with. It was very encouraged at the time when I was in school to join this organization. It was very helpful for people that would do like meetings and conferences and things like that. But I did learn a lot of things. I did make a lot of contacts in the industry at the time. So this is just to show you, again, my maiden name is Hoffman. So this is my little certificate and shows you what I kind of did while I was there. I joined as a student member. So one of the things I did was help plan they had monthly meetings, and I helped plan the February one for 2013, I believe it was. And then for a while I was the Twitter head of the social media. So I did all the Twitter postings for the organization, which I don't actually post on Twitter for Strush Design at all, but if I ever do, it still got me into learning how to post for an organization on social media. So that was something I did there. So when I was in school and I took the special events management class, part of the requirement for that class was to do a certain amount of volunteer work. I don't remember, it was like 25 hours or something like that. And one of the first events I did was actually before that class started, because my instructor, who was the instructor I had for most of my classes, so I kind of got to know her pretty well, she sent out an email for everyone in that class that kind of said, you need volunteer work for this class, and I have an opportunity for you before class even starts, so whoever wants to sign up. So I was one of the people that responded and signed up. And it was a tribute event to the former president of the college, because she was leaving. I worked 4 or 5 hours, I think, there that night. And I did mainly the registration area, but we also kind of helped clean up and stuff afterwards. I don't have any physical things from that event, but I do have a few pictures that I have. I'll kind of just post them here just to show you I was there. I was much younger than, like 10 years ago, 9 years ago. But that was me working at that event. So that was one of the things I did for my volunteer work for that class. Then I had to find a few on my own because that was the only one she provided for us. So I ended up finding one more locally. So what I found in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee area, which was nice, was a marathon. This was called the Brewers Mini Marathon. So it was Milwaukee Brewers at the, used to be called Miller Park. It's not called that anymore. It's the AmFam Field. But back then it was Miller Park. And before that it was County Stadium. I remember those days. But anyway, I worked 2 different shifts, 2 different days for this event. Got a big chunk of my volunteer work out of the way. I only have like a hard copy email and my volunteer form for one of the days I was there. I'm not sure what happened to the other one. Thought I had it. Maybe it got mixed up with something else. But I worked both at packet pickup, and that was, if you need to know the date, it was September 26th, 2013, and then the actual race was September 28th. So both times, because I volunteered 2 different shifts, I got a shirt. So here it is, event crew. And I just want to be clear, I didn't actually run the marathon. They were different color shirts for the people that actually ran the marathon, not me. So what I did for that was I did packet pickup the 26th, which was 2 days before the event, and did that for 4 hours, 3:30 to 7:30. And then I did gear check, and I don't have my thing, so I don't know exactly how many hours I worked, but you probably don't care about that anyway. Only thing I can say there is, so I got another shirt, so I have 2. I got another shirt for working that day, and so I worked at the gear check tent. And all I remember about that day was someone messed up somewhere, because like me and another person were assigned to a certain like range of numbers. Like the people who were running the marathon were given a number, and they would come to that like place in the tent to have their gear held so that it was easier to organize or whatever. Well, someone for some reason didn't give anyone the range that I was assigned to with this other person. So we, like a little bit into the event, we're kind of like, we're not getting anything. Why is that? And eventually we found out that they didn't actually give that number to anyone, those numbers. So we ended up splitting up and just helping the people next to us or whatever. But it was just kind of weird mistake that happened. And it was something I could write about in my little paper, because that was part of the thing where I had this volunteer work and then write about what happened, my experiences and stuff like that. So that was that. So that was one of the events I worked. The other one I got to get the rest of my volunteer work was I worked at the Isthmus Food and Wine Festival. All I have here is just volunteer confirmation letter. And that was October 19th of 2013. This was the one that I volunteered at. Actually, let me take this back a minute, because I was an exhibitor assistant. So my job was to monitor a specific vendor and tables for the event, because this was a food and wine festival. So different restaurants in the area, and this also was in Madison, different restaurants in the area would come and make things and sell wine with it, or they would have different wineries come in. I don't even remember everything anymore, who was all there, but my job was to monitor a specific vendor and tables, which I don't even know what that means because I was walking around an entire area of people and picking up garbage. Basically, that was my job. But anyway, patrolling assigned tables, that's kind of what I was doing in vending areas. Periodically clearing off tables and picking up any stray napkins and cups and food and plates and things like that. They didn't say that. Alerting staff to broken glass. Wasn't any on my shift, didn't see that. Alerting staff if vendors run out of product. So I didn't have to do that either. But I spent, what's the time on here? 4 to 7. So I spent 3 hours. I actually stayed later than that. We'll get to that. But my job was to stay there 3 hours and walk around the event and clean up tables, basically. So the main thing with that one was after the event was over, I helped clean up. I think the event actually went until 6 or 6:30, so that they had me already where I was going to be helping clean up afterwards. But I ended up staying later. Me and a bunch of other people ended up staying later because there was this mound of stuff. And that event specifically, like, they were trying to be more green, environmentally friendly. So they had this zero waste initiative, they called it, which was to recycle or compost as much as possible and not have anything wasted that should have been in one of those categories. So there was a lot of sorting garbage that went on, leftovers, whatever. And the compost pile was huge, because there was a lot of wasted food, and some of the plates and things were compostable. We ended up at the end of the night with just like this one table that had everything on it, and like not enough garbage cans to take care of everything, or containers or whatever, trying to be environmentally friendly, and then it ends up being all this work and, you know, kind of thing. I wish I would have taken pictures because it was crazy. It was crazy. So that was fun. So those are my volunteer opportunities for that class. As part of the experience taking that program in that school, we were kind of encouraged to join this organization called MPI Wisconsin. There was Wisconsin chapter. It's MPI, Meetings Professional International. And I did it because, and I knew I wasn't really a meetings person or conference person, but I did it to kind of build my resume and make contact with people, which I was doing at the time, and, you know, get some more experience under my belt. So when I showed you, I'll show it again just in case I cut it out somewhere else. But I had this little certificate of appreciation here that shows, this is, you know, my maiden name, Shannon Hoffman. One of the things I did, one of my accomplishments was I was invited by one of the other members to help plan a monthly meeting, because we would have monthly meetings every month. Not that I went to all of them, because it wasn't always possible for me to do. I ended up attending 2, including the one I planned. But that was the February event, and then I did the Twitter, like I said. I was invited to be the Twitter lead. Someone got to be the Facebook lead, and someone else got to be, I think, LinkedIn or something. I don't remember anymore. I was Twitter. But the event that I planned, so just to prove that I was there, here's my name tag. Hoffman's my maiden name. I have 2 of these, actually. Where's the other one? There it is. If you really want, see, I attended 2 events, so I have 2 name tags. So I had a good time, you know, in that organization, learned some stuff, got to make some contact with people. The main claim to fame I have for that was that I helped plan the February meeting. So other than helping with the general plan of the day, you know, my job that I was broken out to do was to come up with networking questions, because we were going to have like a networking kind of thing during it. These are my questions that I had to come up with. And I don't remember the number they gave me. I think they said 20 to 25, and I have 23 on here. I had trouble coming up with a lot of these. And one of the ladies I was working with on the event, I remember her saying, like, you did a really good job on that. I couldn't come up with that many, because I was dreading doing it. That's why I gave it to you. So, because I was, the student intern member or whatever. But anyway, so part of the meeting where we were going to all mingle and network, and because our theme of the event was the Olympics, because it was taking place during the Olympics. They actually had the Olympics on the TV when we were like eating and stuff. But anyway, we did like this passport kind of thing. I didn't design this. I kind of wish I did, but I didn't. And what we did was you'd get a little sticker for like whatever event that you were. So I was the bobsled, obviously. And then you would just find other people who had different stickers and try to fill your card. Well, I never got mine done. But, we did kind of a theme where trying to get people to talk to each other, which, was not my favorite thing to do. I don't like networking, just to be honest. But turns out the meeting that I was doing was heavy on the networking. So anyway, that was what we did for that. I have also, so first of all, I'll say I have some pictures in here from the publication that we had as part of the meeting to show you that, how the meeting went. And I'm in a couple of them just to show you I was there. So I'm in this one. I'll show you. It's the side of me, but here I am right here. This is when we were watching the Olympics. And then I am also in this one. Where is it? This one right here. There I am. Now, if you see, I'm wearing like an Olympics shirt there. And I was hoping for this video, because I found the t-shirts that I had for all the events that I was doing. I was hoping I still had that, but I think I got rid of it. I think I donated it because I'm like, I'm never going to wear this. And I never did for the longest time. So, but I was looking for it. I wasn't sure if I donated or not. Apparently I did. But that as a team, for the team that was planning, we decided we were going to buy those and wear them to kind of distinguish us. Yes, we are the ones who planned this meeting. So if you have questions, come to us. So that was the way to distinguish ourselves, I guess. It was kind of fun. But anyway, what I really want to say is this whole article in this publication, it's called The Agenda, the MPI Agenda for MPI Wisconsin. They had me write the article, and then they gave credit to someone else when I wrote it. And I think, I don't have it right now, but I think I specifically, because this happened, like printed out the email or saved it or whatever of like, yes, they did ask me to do this and I sent it in, and they asked me for like a headshot to put in the article, because they do that with the articles. Well, some of them apparently, I don't know. I don't see any in here that have them. Maybe it was some, oh, here's one. See, like they have a little headshot. They specifically asked me for one, and I sent it, and neither the headshot or my name is on this article. So it's kind of funny. Not a big deal. I mean, it wasn't something that I'm going to use other than bragging about it now, even though it doesn't really prove anything, does it? But they ended up having me write another article for the next one, the next magazine or whatever this is, publication, because to make it up for me, because they messed up my name on the other one. So all I did was they sent me this article from like technology and trends in the meeting industry, and I had to like summarize it in my own words. So that's what I did. They gave me credit. There's my maiden name there, and there's my picture. That's what should have been on the other one, but whatever. Not a big deal. But anyway, I mean, other than this video, I haven't really ever, talked about that to anyone. So I ended up joining another organization when I was a student. This one wasn't really recommended. And this one was geared more towards the things that I wanted to do, which was special events, which is weddings fall under that, but other special events as well. So, where do I start here? Well, part of the reason it wasn't recommended for students was because this was actually out of Chicago and not Milwaukee or Madison in Wisconsin. So, in order to be a member of this, and I attended one meeting that was like a day, it was called Day of Education, and it was about, special events, kind of trends and stuff like that. It was actually really helpful. I wish I could have attended more. I still might someday, I don't know. Let me talk about that in a minute. This organization has changed its name since, and you'll kind of understand why when I tell you what it was called. So at the time, it was called International Special Events Society, or ISES. ISES. So, I can say, jokingly, that I was a member of ISES. ISES. Kind of crazy, right? So they changed their name to International Live Events Association, I believe now. It's ILEA. I was only a member for a year. I got, the student rate or whatever. And that was back when it was ISIS. Again, they changed their name because they had to. So I did two major things there. I attended one of their kind of monthly meetings. It was called a Day of Education, February of 2014. Here's my name tag, ISIS, And then 2 months later, well, I was kind of approached because I was a student member. They kind of asked me what I wanted to do, if I wanted to volunteer or whatever. And I offered because I love volunteering, especially in the industry and special events. So, I thought it was a big deal back then. So I ended up they do this every year. They still call this the NICE Awards, but this was the one in 2014 in April. It was themed like a travel kind of thing. And here's my boarding pass, my name tag for the night. But I was a volunteer, but I also kind of attended through volunteering. And what they had me do at this, I wish I would take pictures back then, but I didn't. But what they had me do during this was, I have my whole volunteer thing, and everything highlighted is something I needed to know. So, and then they kind of gave me a map of the thing. But I remember talking with the person who was kind of in charge ahead of time, and one of the things that's on here is Shannon, arrival time, 5 p.m. Get into costume provided by Comedy Sports. Check in at the green room. So, they had me dress up as a flight attendant and two other women that were there with me. And it was kind of an older, flight attendant costume, and they gave me a little hat too. And again, I wish I had pictures. I didn't take a picture. I don't know why I didn't. And I remember because it was provided by Comedy Sports, like Comedy Sports Chicago or whatever, they had these costumes, and they had names on them that were really weird. And I don't remember what mine was. I don't think this is what it was, and I don't even know if this was actually a thing, but they were kind of like they were jokey names. One was, I think, something like Flighty Fran or something like that. Like an alliteration of a weird adjective and then a woman's name, for comedy, for comic effect. I don't remember what my name was. Again, I wish I would have took pictures. I don't know why I didn't. It drives me crazy. But anyway, my point is, they had me dress up in this costume because the theme was travel. And my job, I was the only one who had to do this. I had to stand in the lobby of the hotel where it was taking place. And they also gave me a prop, a little suitcase, vintage. Again, I wish I had a picture. God, wish I had a picture. Anyway, they gave me this little suitcase, and they said, and it says right on here, be in the hotel lobby at 5:40 p.m. with sign. They didn't give me a sign. So I was standing there in the lobby in like old-timey flight attendant wearing with a little suitcase, and I was supposed to direct people to the event, like just take the elevator up to the 4th floor, you'll find it. And everyone was coming up to me like, are you really a flight attendant? And I was like, no. Like millions of times during the night, because I knew the only reason I felt comfortable doing this was they said I was going to have a sign where it would say like the nice awards or something. I would be like, yes, this is where you go up to the elevator. But no, they had me standing there in a flight attendant costume, and then I had to also judge who was there for the event and who wasn't. And I got that wrong a few times. I was like, are you here for the nice awards? To like people walking by, and they'd be like, no, who are you, weirdo flight attendant? You know, so that was quite an experience having to volunteer at this event, let me tell you. The rest of the time I helped out with other things, and you know, they fed me and stuff, which was nice, and I kind of got to get an overview of the event. It was kind of cool, other than, you know, the beginning. And we had to kind of direct people where they were supposed to go the rest of the night. Like, oh, now you're supposed to go to this place in the hotel, down to like the bar area. I don't remember what it was called. Yeah, and then, so that's what I had to do there. The main thing was the flight attendant thing. But, you know, that was fun. And I wish I could have done more. It was in Chicago. I could only drive down there so often, especially because I wasn't getting paid for it or anything. And I wasn't actually like started out in the industry, so I wasn't getting paid that way either. So it was weird. But anyway, yes, I was a member of ISIS. I don't remember what class this was for. I don't remember anymore. It was a long time ago. It's 2014, man. That was a long time ago. Anyway, for some reason I had to volunteer again at another event. And this was put on by the Wisconsin Medical Society Foundation. It was called the Superheroes of Medicine. And I have, you know, my little volunteer sheet, and I got a thank you letter. I have my name tag from the event, and I have my little program from the event, just to prove I was there. What I did there was help monitor the silent auction area, which for this event they had everything set up on like an app where, because you can see on my name tag, they gave me a bidder number too. I didn't bid on anything. But you would download this app, and that was a lot of what I helped with, because people didn't really understand how to do that. And then like you'd put in your number, and you know, you'd have your credit card in there, and you would bid on things that way. You know, high tech. We'll get to different silent auctions that I've done with my internship that were not high tech. But, you know, it was an interesting kind of thing. I think it kind of takes away some of the experience of it though, but there's pros and cons. So that was mainly what I did. I walked around for like an hour or two, I think, and just monitored the area. And again, if someone was having trouble, I'd go up to them and try to help them. There were a few, there weren't that many. A lot of it was me walking around. I do have some pictures from the event where you can see me in the background. I'll put them up. That was when I was walking around the silent auction. Then the other thing I did was I helped take down the auction area and pack everything up and ready for people to pick up. And then after the event was over, I went and helped tear down like the event area, like take down all the tables and the things like that. So I did that a lot in my career too, my volunteer career. There was one other thing that happened, major thing that happened when I was in school, other than my internship. I'm getting to that. For a extra credit opportunity, my instructor, who was, again, the instructor who was in charge of most of my classes, this was for the meeting coordination class that I had, and part of that, a big part of what we learned in that class was kind of floor plans and how to make things flow nicely and comfort and that kind of thing. So because we were learning about that, apparently there's a I'm gonna shout them out. There was a local nonprofit to the Madison area called Logan's Hearts and Smiles. They make wheelchair ramps and things like that for kids. I think it's mostly kids. It might also be adults with disabilities who need wheelchair ramps and stuff added to their house. So they raise money with their events and other things to build wheelchair ramps and other things to make their lives easier. So this organization approached my instructor for advice on how to set up their tent, and she decided to give it to us, the students in this class, as an extra credit opportunity. Again, I didn't really need extra credit with most of these classes, but I did it anyway. And I don't even actually know if I'm the only one who did it, because I don't know why I didn't ask, but I didn't actually get much confirmation after I did this on what actually happened with the information I gave, or if anyone else did it. I just know I got the extra credit for it, which wasn't really why I did it. I did it because it was an actual event, an actual client who has a problem and wants it solved. And I was like, oh, let me see if I can do this. It was a great experience. But anyway, they gave me certain parameters. I have some of the original stuff that they gave me. I do have it digitally as well, but I have some of the physical stuff, like when I was planning it out and stuff like that. They kind of gave me, this is kind of crumpled up, but they gave me a picture of what the tent looked like, so I can have a visual. And they also have like a actual floor plan they gave me. I don't have the list of like parameters they had anymore right here. I mean, I have my notes, which probably have them on there. But, they had given me like a list of things that I needed to incorporate into the tent and things like that. So, again, this was a long time ago, and I certainly didn't have the software or the know-how to use it at the time. So I made, old school graph paper layout of the tent. But, again, they had certain parameters. I remember that there was something that didn't work out with what they wanted. I couldn't solve something. There was something that wasn't quite perfect with, what they had, what the amount of space they had and what they wanted. It wasn't going to work quite right. I don't remember what that was at this point. These are all the seating tables, and then they wanted like a stage area and dancing and photo booth, and like some of these were like the food and registration and things. I don't remember what these all are. They're labeled right here. Maybe I should check. Registration, buy a chance, raffle, dessert, and buffet. And then they had like the extra area in that picture. The one that's kind of outside still, not exactly in the tent. I ended up putting the silent auction out there. So I have all those tables lined up along the side, but then I'm like, you have to make sure that you weight everything down, because if it's windy, it's going to be a problem. And then I put the cocktail tables out there for people to like sit in there and enjoy, and the bar is out there as well. So anyway, this was the best I could come up with their parameters. I got 100 or whatever on the thing based on that. But again, I don't actually know if my instructor took this to them and was like, hey, here's an option. I don't know if that ever happened. I should have asked. I didn't. But I took my little notes and then mapped it all out. And I loved the opportunity of going above and beyond for this class and being able to actually work on an event. Even though I wasn't working directly with the client at this point, I still had like their information and what they wanted and what they needed, and I was able to come up with a solution, even if it wasn't perfect, because I couldn't get all the parameters in there based on what they wanted, based on also what I learned in the class. Because one of the things we learned is how far apart the tables have to be and how many tables you can have in an area and how far the stage needs to be away from seating areas and stuff like that. That was what we were learning in the class. So all their parameters didn't really, and maybe if I look at this again, maybe I could figure out something else based on it, maybe. I don't know. Because I only had like a few days to work on this. I wasn't sure. I don't remember how many days, but anyway. So I just have one little other thing here just to show you. The college put on a program or an event for the 10th anniversary of the program. And I attended that. Here's my name tag. I didn't do anything volunteer-wise for that. I just attended it. And then I just have a congratulations card from the instructors when I completed the program. So that was all my schooling stuff. Oh wait, I did forget something. This event, Forks and Corks, was more local to me again. It was the Milwaukee area. It's actually the next city over from me right now, West Dallas. I had to attend an event. I think this is also for the special events class. I had to attend an event and critique it based on, the things I was learning. So I had to write a little paper about it. Went to another wine tasting. This time I got to enjoy the food and the wine, not like the other one. And then I also have a thank you card here from the president of MPI at the time I was there. Just thanking me for my work on the February event, the monthly one that we did. But anyway, just a little token of thank you for that. So I still have that. All right, so for my internship that I did, I ended up working with Susan G. Komen out of Madison, the South Central Wisconsin branch of the Susan G. Komen. So based out of Madison. There was one in the Milwaukee area, but I couldn't get an internship with that one. So I ended up having to drive to Madison, at least 2 times a week. I worked Monday and Tuesdays because those were the days I was off of work. So I drove into Madison those days. And then sometimes if there was like an event or something, I would also drive in a third day. Because I was like events focused, I ended up working one event like shortly after I was hired as an intern. And that one I worked at the merchandise table with another lady that worked at the office. And then another one shortly after that, I worked at a registration desk. I don't have any proof from either of those. I didn't take any pictures or anything. I forgot what it was. It was a fundraiser. I don't remember what it was called, but it took place at a local car dealership, actually. They have like a space that they rent out for events, which is kind of cool. I don't know if anyone does that in this area. I've never heard of that before. But anyway, they were a big sponsor to a lot of the things, and they host a lot of the events. It was a Toyota dealership. But anyway, I ended up working at 2 events at that place. The first one was I worked at a registration desk, and then I ended up, during my internship, actually working under 3 different people while I was there. They had a lot of like staff shifting around when I was there. I'm not sure if they still do. I know that no one that I worked with at the office actually works there anymore, but I worked there from, October 2014 through May of 2015. And my internship only went for a certain amount of hours. Like I was way over hours, and it only went until when I had to do my write-up. That was December. But then I ended up staying another semester technically, even though it wasn't really thought of that way. I ended up staying because their big event is their race, and that takes place in May, at least at that branch. Well, let me get to the race. I have a lot to say about the race. Anyway, I ended up working under 3 different people, and they all had me kind of doing different things. And the last person I worked for, who I worked with the longest actually, she knew, and I appreciate this, she knew I was more into like event planning and things like that. So she actually gave me a lead on planning a brand new event they were doing, and that happened in February of 2015. It was called Think Pink, like a Survivor pre-game party. So it was like in conjunction with the UW Athletics, technically that's what it's called. It was at the Kohl Center in Madison. It was with the Wisconsin Badgers women's basketball team. They wanted to do something in conjunction with raising money for breast cancer, and so they approached us and was like, hey, we'd like to do like a joint event kind of thing for your organization. And so what we wanted to do was do a like for the survivors and forever fighters, they're called. They're people who don't necessarily survive, but they had breast cancer. Back when I was working, it was actually only called survivors. Within the next few years, they changed it to be also forever fighters, because there were people understandably getting upset that survivors got all the, glory because they survived. Susan G. Komen decided to kind of rebrand, I guess, or say that survivors and forever fighters, they're in the same category, they're just as important. Back when I was working, though, it was called only survivors. So it was a survivor pre-game party that we were planning. And then during the game, we had some things going on. We had offered, no one accepted our offer, but we had offered, or UW Athletics, it was their idea to do this. Is there a survivor out there who wants to sing the national anthem for the game? No one wanted to do it, so they ended up just getting someone to do it. But during the national anthem, they had a bunch of survivors who wanted to volunteer to hold a giant flag out on the court during the national anthem. I have a picture. And during halftime, they had another kind of thing where they had their survivors all kind of sit down, and I think they had an a cappella group, I think that's what it was, sing to them. Like, it was their special little thing, which was kind of neat. And then the party beforehand, we kind of did like this fundraiser where we had goals of making a certain amount of money at least, and we did meet that goal. I don't remember what the amount of money was anymore. And we wanted to increase attendance at the game, and we did that. But anyway, since I was the lead on this event, I had to pretty much do everything. Like, I updated our little website about it. I was the main, point person for UW Athletics, their intern, to contact me and kind of work on the event together. And we had our goals, and all of our goals were reached, which was cool. I made a little... Here's just an example. I made, registration list. I made name tags. I have a picture of that. I made a name tag for myself so people would know who I am. And I have pictures from the event that I'll kind of sprinkle in here. Like, I had to coordinate everyone else in the office and what kind of jobs they were going to have. So that was sort of my job. Also, so for the race, we had monthly meetings for that. And again, that's the big event that was happening in May. And I joined the race committee. So I was attending those meetings as well. They would usually happen Tuesdays. I would just stay after my shift, my intern shift, which was during the morning. I would stay in Madison and I would do laundry in between and kind of get something to eat and stuff, and then I'd come back to the office to the race committee. But anyway, at one of our race meetings, they had me, it was kind of off guard, they didn't tell me about this. They had me go up and do a little spiel to all the people at the race committee, because a lot of them are survivors and they're people who like to volunteer with us or whatever. So I had to go in and kind of be like, hey, we're looking for volunteers and people to attend and stuff like that on the fly. They didn't warn me that I was going to do that. They're just like, hey, can you go up there and talk? And I was like, okay. I'm not the greatest at public speaking, especially when I'm on the fly like that. As you can see, I also spoke at the event. I have pictures of that as well. But all the planning, all the implementing of the day, that was all me. I had the lead of the event, and I appreciate that so much. I also... So for the putting on the pink event, I was put in charge, not in charge, but I was at the event, I was going to be in charge of running the area for the silent auction. So I did another silent auction kind of thing. But to show you the difference, we used carbon copy paper for ours rather than a computer like that other event that I did. But it was my job to make these and to coordinate all the items we were getting from donations. and to set them up. So I have a picture of me setting them up in the office, just to kind of plan out how I was going to set them up at the event. Again, I didn't take any pictures at the event. I don't know why I never did this. I don't know what my problem is. That was my main job during the event. I also helped set up and clean up and things like that. But this was the other one that was at the Toyota dealership. And here's a little, floor plan. Like they would take all their things they had on the show floor, the vehicles they had on the show floor, and they would take those out so that you could use that space, which is kind of cool. But anyway, this was my little area for the silent auction. In addition to the silent auction, this was not my idea, it was the woman I was working under at the time. We were doing a buy it now thing where people would donate gift cards and we would sell them for cheaper than what they were. The gift card was for $25. We would sell them for $15 or $20 or something. And you could buy it now instead of bidding on it. So we had a separate area for that too. It was my job to get everything set up, and then it was my job to package and make sure they went to the right people afterwards. So I got a real in-depth, silent auction experience from that. But I stayed, and then I worked at the race. And what I did at the race was I did the survivor tent. So I ended up working at the survivor tent. And I did this both this year that I'm talking about, which was 2015. I ended up coming back for 2 more years after that and working the race again after I was interning. So, and every year I worked at the survivor tent. Really, how it happened, and I didn't mind doing this, but how it happened was I went to my first race committee meeting, and the lady I was sitting next to was kind of networking and talking with me, and she's like, hey, do you want to help me out at the survivor tent? And I was like, sure. So ended up helping her. The first year was probably the best. The second year was a little weird, and then the third year she dropped out right before the event started. And then I wasn't put in charge, which I should have been, because I was the one who worked there for how many years. That's a whole other story. Let's not get into that. And that's kind of when I decided, I think I'm done working here. There was a new person who was in charge of the entire race. I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if it was a drama thing or she didn't, I don't know, but she actually put her mom in charge of my tent. So, and your mom didn't know what she was doing. So that was quite an experience. And my lovely husband that year, Mr. Shrush, decided that he was going to help, because I was kind of worried about it because, my person dropped out at the end. I'm like, oh, I got to do this all by myself. But then, they ended up having someone else come in and not help me, but be in charge, That was kind of crappy. And the result was kind of crappy as well. But I do have some pictures from the previous 2 years. I didn't take any the third year. But just to show you, what it kind of looked like. Main job was setting up the tent and cleaning up afterwards, but also during the event, making sure everyone had what they needed. And, I liked being part of the survivor tent because, they're the main event is the survivors. Again, Forever Fighters 2. Anyone who's ever had breast cancer was a survivor, technically, according to. But again, they changed the nomenclature later. But I enjoyed being part of that tent the most because, that's the whole reason this organization exists. And, I had a good time. I do have, just because I showed you my shirts before, I do have my shirts from working at these. I don't remember which year these are from. Some of them I've used later as painting shirts, so they got crap all over them. Paint. But I'm a committee member, see? The other one said volunteer, I'm committee. So here's another one. I don't remember which year is which, and the year isn't on here for some reason. I don't know why. I didn't design the t-shirts. But I have 2 from this year because I think I got a long sleeve and a short sleeve. But anyway, there, see? I have 3 different years that I worked at the race. So that does it for my volunteer work and schooling and stuff. Other than that, I helped out at a few family and friend of family weddings. doing various whatever they wanted me to do. One other thing I did that I don't have any pictures from or any proof really is back when, as being part of the student of the meeting and event management program, I would get emails from, again, my main instructor, who would send us, even when I wasn't ready to be an intern yet, she would send us like emails of internship opportunities and stuff like that, and occasionally a part-time job. So this was a part-time job that came up, and I thought about like, oh, this would be a good thing for me to do. I should do this. So it was I'm not going to mention who it is, but it was a local to Madison area, sort of a little outside the Madison area venue that specialized in weddings. They wanted someone to kind of help out, like on their side, like dealing with coordinating like weddings. Again, from the venue side, it's completely different when you're working with a bride or a groom versus, or their family or whoever, versus working with the venue. It's different, but either way, it would have given me some experience because I wanted to do more of the like bridal side. I thought this is a really good idea. I should, I'm going to jump on this and I'm going to contact this person. So I ended up interviewing with her, like driving out there for an interview. And she told me that at that time, during the interview, at the end of the interview, she's like, well, I'm going to send you an email later today or tomorrow or whatever. And, we'll talk about bringing you up here to do a shadow, like one of the events. And I ended up not getting an email from her, like that day or the day after. So I emailed her, and something that happened was the phone number I originally gave her, there was something wrong with it. I think like we had a home phone at the time, and for some reason it wasn't working, or the internet was out, or the phone was out or something. I don't remember. So I gave her my cell phone instead. So I emailed her and I was like, just in case you need it, my phone number has changed. Here's my phone number. And then I got an email back from her, and she's like, well, I thought you were supposed to work like last Saturday and you didn't show up. And I'm like, you never told me that. Like, and she's like, well, I thought whatever. So I'm like, okay. So then I ended up going the next Saturday. She's like, well, you can come next Saturday if you want. So I ended up going, and then like she kind of acted like I was going to be working there after that. And then the next day from her, I got an email like, oh, we decided to go in a different direction. And I'm like, okay. Like this lady kept changing her mind and saying things, and ended up being something different. Just goes to show that I don't want to work for anyone else. This is how it goes. It's not how I'm going to be, but this is how, a lot of people are. So the day though that I worked there, I did get some good experience working like behind the scenes on a wedding. Seeing the venue side of things. Again, I wanted to be a wedding planner / event planner. So, even if I ended up not working there, I still got the day to kind of, and she did pay me too. It was a paid day of work. So I don't know. Didn't work, ended up not working out because the lady was kind of flighty, but it was good experience. It was something I got because I was a student at the meeting and event management program. So it was nice. And she ended up saying too that she ended up like, oh, we're going to use someone that we already have hired, like as like, because they had like bartenders and stuff too that worked there. I don't know. That's what she said in the email. Who knows? So that was something I got to do though, as part of that. So that was kind of cool. Since then, another thing I forgot. During the event professionals best practices, I think that's what it's called, course that I was taking, another thing I had to do was a mock interview. Because, we were learning about how to do a resume and how to interview or whatever. So the person I got matched up with was actually nearer to me, because again, I was going to school in Madison technically, but it was online, and I was closer to the Milwaukee area. So that might be why I was matched up with this person. Anyway, I come into interview, and I'm not sure if she had employees or if she was just self-employed, and she owned her own place. I don't remember exactly, but she didn't really have an office for me to meet at. So I met with her at her home, and when I got there, she had been like, "Oh, can I get you something to drink? Do you want some water or whatever?" And I think I accepted. I don't remember, because she went up and went in the kitchen and was kind of chatting with me, and she's like, "Well, let me think about how she phrases." It was something like, what brings you to this industry? Why do you want to work here, or whatever, work in this industry? And I had mentioned, because this is how I started, I had gotten interested into planning weddings and things like that. I've helped out at a few weddings. I've done some helping out with family reunions and stuff like that, special event kind of stuff, personal things that I wanted to do. And I was just I thought we were just chatting, right? Because I wasn't aware that the interview started. But she had this chip on her shoulder ever since then. Oh, well, that's not the same thing, And I'm like, I know it's not. I thought we were just talking. And ever since within the interview, I don't remember exactly everything we were talking about, but she'd ask me a question, and I'd be like, yeah, and she's like, well, she had this chip on her shoulder ever since, oh, you're one of those, you're a wedding planner or whatever, And I'm like, so that's how that interview went, and it wasn't even a real interview. So, but then towards the end, because I had brought my portfolio that I, made with this class, and a few examples of my work and stuff, and I started bringing them out, and she's like, oh, you really have done stuff. And I was like, yeah, I was trying to tell you that, but you're all like, oh, you're a wedding planner, you don't know what you're doing, and blah blah blah, so that went well. So anyway, that also just further cemented my decision to not work for anyone else. I'm doing my own thing. That's what I'm doing. So, it took a while, but I'm here finally. Other than cementing that I didn't ever want to work for people like her, which are most, I'm not saying all, most managers or, people who have a lot of high opinion of themselves and don't want to help anyone else. There's plenty of people like that in the world. That's why I'm not working for them. So then shortly after my extended internship ended in May 2015, a couple months after that, I met my husband. And not blaming him, but it kind of threw a wrench in my plans. When I was in school, I went back and forth about, I want to work for myself. No, maybe I want to work for and get some experience under my belt, under someone, a company or nonprofit or whatever I'm working for first, and then move out into myself. And then I was kind of convinced to be, no, I just want to start myself. I had a few more classes I still need to take after my internship to finish off the program. That was done. I was ready to just get started on my own, take a bunch of risks, get it started. I was, all motivated and ready to start. And again, I'm not blaming him for this, but met my husband a few months after my internship ended, and when I was in my last semester of school, or did I have one more after that? I don't remember. Either way, and things were getting serious with us, and he had bought a house and we were starting to renovate it, and we had a lot on our plate as a couple. And we got engaged and we eventually got married. And I didn't have the freedom, I guess, to do whatever I wanted, which was okay. It's other things that happened in my life that were good. But I had to kind of dial back the I'm ready to go. So then I started getting kind of a second wind. Jazzy. Interrupting me. So then I started to get kind of a second wind when we were planning our wedding, because I started learning, coincidentally, I started learning calligraphy so we got married in January 2019. I think it was February of 2018, I started learning calligraphy. And I'm going to give a few shout outs to the people that helped teach me. The first main one was Loveleigh Loops, Jillian and Jordan. They do a great job, especially with beginners. But that's where, I started. I was in another group on Facebook. I don't remember which group. And I happened to see like them promoting their faux calligraphy, which was free. Their faux calligraphy, course that they had. And that was through Facebook. And I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I want to learn, because I always wanted to learn calligraphy. And I had bought like books and stuff. So anyway, I started learning with them, and I ended up taking, and that was kind of when they were just starting out too. Like they had done a little bit before that. But I started taking some of their courses that they had that, you actually had to pay for, like more advanced kind of stuff. And, they got me a good foundation of learning what I wanted to learn. And again, that was all through 2018. I ended up also, I guess through a referral from them, discovering Tila of Every Tuesday, because I took her font making class, which I still haven't, I still haven't made a font, but I do want to. In fact, I have some pictures here of when I was first taking the class and decided I want to make one. Well, I'm going to eventually. It's on the list, I promise. I just have a lot of other things I'm doing right now, but I am going to eventually make at least one, but probably more than one font. Very good course, very expensive, but it's worth it. Anyway, I discovered Tila through them with this font making class, and then I ended up taking a bunch of her classes as well. She has really good Procreate classes. One in particular I took before our wedding, and I ended up making a few things for our wedding through it. I'm going to show those right here. It was her 3D Procreate class, and I just kind of manipulated, the lesson to be what I wanted it to be on there. This neon one is the last, it's like the master part of that class where, it's the most difficult. But anyway, I was real happy with the way this turned out, following her tutorial. Ended up taking a bunch more of her classes, and then I've, whether it was something I paid for or just learning from other people, there are a few other people on the list who I've learned from. I did mention before in another video that I actually took 2 of the Happy Ever Crafters courses. I took the Panic-Free Pricing, which is, business side, learning how to price, certain things calligraphy-wise that you make. I took that from her first, but then she was starting the signage course with Chalk by Mabs. Anyway, the pricing course and the signage course I took through her. She also does, I know I haven't taken this, but she also does a free beginner's lettering course, which if you're trying to learn beginner-wise is very good, I'm sure. She's really good at teaching. Loveleigh Loops are very good at teaching. Tila is very good at teaching. I've learned so much from all of them. And again, I sprinkled a few other lessons from other people in there. But that's where I kind of got my start with lettering. And it's just been practice ever since then. I mean, even whether or not I take a course from someone else or I'm just practicing, and I did a lot of practicing before our wedding because I was doing a lot of things. I ended up not doing everything I wanted to do for the wedding for many reasons. One of them was I didn't have enough time. But that's actually something that's going to be a later video. I'm going to do a little bit of redo with some of the things in our wedding. I'm going to do that because our anniversary is in January, so I'm probably going to do that in the end of January. I'll show a few things that I did for the wedding. Again, this is when I was at the very beginner level, not even a year in. technically, learning things. So this is me being self-critical, and I know there's other people who will criticize too. That's fine. You know, I was very beginner level at this point, and there's things I could do way better now that I would like to go and revisit and do again 4 years later, it would be now, to make it better. So anyway, I did a lot of things for my wedding. And then, you know, I was kind of taking more courses from other people and wanting to keep learning lettering and calligraphy and other things. And, you know, all this, in the back of my mind, I'm going to do this someday. I'm going to open a business, you know, while working full time and, you know, housework and stuff. So it took a while. And then, because we got married in 2019, like I said, I started getting towards the end of 2019 into 2020, like, I'm gonna do this. And then we all know what happened 2020, don't we? Yeah. Taking a lot of extra hours and working a lot of overtime because I was home and I wasn't going anywhere else. So I really didn't have time to work on a lot of other stuff then. Made a lot of money though, and was able to pay off a lot of stuff a lot of debt that I had, which was good. And it, you know, gave me more freedom now where I could not work and start working on this, where I'm not necessarily making money yet, because I'm not, by the way. Not yet. Anyway, but, you know, I finally had this chance to I finally have, like, you know, my debt's paid off and I have enough money where I can survive for a little while getting this started. Finally. So anyway, but that was through the rest of 2020 into 2021. 2021, I kind of calmed down about the overtime and stuff like that. I still was working a lot, and I was trying to do some things behind the scenes for this, trying to do both. You know, I've worked on a bunch of stuff over the time. It was just really hard to do when I was working another job. Plus, again, I still had stuff to do around the house. So, especially us, because we're still renovating our house to some degree. So I'm not going to spend too much time on all the stuff I did for the wedding, because that's going to be more of another video. But that was the main reason I was learning, was so I could do some stuff for the wedding. And then after the wedding, you know, I just kept practicing, kept thinking, you know, this is kind of where I want to steer what I want to do now. Not just planning, but also designing and making signage and invitations and things like that. And that's still what I want to do. And at this point, the planning is kind of too much to add on top of that, at least at that level. So what I'm doing is opening this Strush Design Weddings YouTube channel, where I'm going to have, you know, topics about wedding planning, where it's kind of more self-serve. You know, you can take the advice or leave it, you know, and kind of walk you through the choices you're going to make while planning your wedding, trying to take different perspectives into account and talking about different topics. I also plan on opening Poised Pencraft, which is going to be my teaching of my lettering style and, you know, tips and tricks and things like that. And I do plan on having my own courses through that. They're not going to be, you know, I'm not going to be copying anyone else. They're going to be my own courses, you know, paying it forward, putting my own spin on it. By the way, so Strush Design Weddings, the channel, I plan on having that ready to go. It's almost ready. It's almost ready. By the end of this month. Very soon. Poised Pencraft, I plan on having available. Right now, my goal is the end of December. We'll see how that goes. If not, it'll be, you know, sometime next year.
All right, everyone. That is going to do it for this week's video. Stay tuned until the very end. I've got some bonus footage and sneak peeks for you. But first, I want to thank you, yes you, for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you found it to be helpful, use those buttons. If you want to see more, you can follow Strush Design on social media. The links are all in the description. And if you would like to browse my online shops, I have 2 Etsy shops and a Fiverr account, also listed below. If you are local to southeastern Wisconsin, I have even more services available, so you'll want to check out my website for that information. But wait, there's more! If you happen to be planning a wedding in the near future, I have another YouTube channel called Shrush Design Weddings, through which I discuss all of the choices you'll have while planning your wedding. And I also have another channel called Poised Pencraft, through which I teach the art of lettering, calligraphy, and some graphic design skills if you want to learn how to create your own designs from scratch and make each project truly your own. Links for both of those channels are, you guessed it, in the description. So if you're all subscribed now and ready for next week's video, I'll see you then. For now though, I'll leave you with the bonus footage and sneak peeks. Enjoy! I will see you next week with my video about my hand-painted labels and signs in the house. Bye!